We talked last week about how Doom is manipulating everybody in this film, but I don't think people have really asked what that means for everything we think we know about this movie. The rumors could be accurate, but they're only accurate to the surface of this film. And the Fantastic Four, Reed, Sue, Franklin, the whole family, are the first people who Doom needed to completely and utterly fool. What he did to accomplish that is the most fascinating thing in this entire story. My name is Braden. This is the Doomsday Clock series. Let's get into it. So here's what I think about how Doom enters this story. After that post-credit scene, Johnny and Ben, who are at a baseball game, are going to show up to the Baxter building after receiving a distress signal. They're ready to fight, only to find their family standing calmly with a man in full armor, telling them everything's fine. Reed and Sue are going to tell Johnny and Ben that Victor is an old friend, someone they've known for years, someone they trust completely. And now, Joshua Verdun and nerds clued into something about that distress signal that I genuinely hadn't considered. Why would the Baxter building security system go off if everything was fine? If this was just an old friend stopping by? There's no reason for an alarm, unless Doom triggered it. Ben Grimm doesn't buy it anyway, and if you know Ben's history with Doom in the comics, that tracks completely. But Reed and Sue do. Reed Richards is one of the smartest minds in the Marvel Universe. So why does Victor Von Doom walk into their home and get trusted like family? I think the answer is a spell. The last time we saw Strange, he had tapped into the Darkhold. He had opened his third eye and left with Clea to stop incursions he himself started. He's already operating in the space between heroism and something darker. And these rumors have been pointing at Strange being inside Doom's inner circle throughout Doomsday, hidden behind one of those golden masks. I think Doom found him at his lowest point, and I think Strange did for Reed and Sue what he did for the entire world in No Way Home. He rewrote what they remember. Think about what that spell actually did. It didn't just erase Peter Parker from people's minds. It reshaped the fabric of their memories around his absence so completely that nobody noticed anything was missing. Years of history gone, replaced with something that felt completely real. I think Strange cast a version of that spell on Reed Richards and Sue Storm. And I think Wanda, who we talked about last week as one of the figures inside Doom's circle, may have been part of how that spell was constructed. Because the kind of memory rewriting that would fool Reed Richards doesn't just require power, it requires chaos magic. The specific ability to reach into the emotional truth of a person and reshape it from the inside out. Doom gave Reed and Sue a history with Victor that never happened, and it feels completely real to them because it was built to. It was designed to gain their trust, to establish a connection that Doom needed to move ahead with his plan. So let's take a moment to talk about Reed Richards, because I think the Reed dynamic is a very costly part of this plan for Victor on a personal level. Victor is someone who has spent their entire life measuring themselves against one person. In the comics, Doom and Reed were college roommates, two of the greatest minds alive, in the same room at the same time, and from the moment they met, Reed was slightly ahead. And now, Victor has to spend several years working alongside him, because the rumor suggests that after Doom establishes himself inside Earth-28, Reed and Doom spend years in collaboration, studying Galactus' ship, which is just sitting there above Earth, full of power cosmic technology. So several years, two arch enemies forced into the same room by a problem neither of them can solve alone. And the thing that I find so specifically interesting about that is what Reed has that Victor doesn't, which is everything. Reed has Sue. Reed has Franklin. Reed has a family that is whole and present and alive. He has scientific genius that rivals Victor's own, but he uses it for discovery rather than control. And Reed, who has none of the wounds Victor has, who has built his life on a foundation Victor never had access to, gets to stand in the same room and still be the one who is slightly ahead. Doom needs Reed's mind, the specific, elastic thinking that produces solutions Victor's own genius approaches differently. He needs all of it. But admitting there is something Reed Richards has that Victor Von Doom requires is its own particular wound for a man whose entire identity is built on being the greatest mind alive. But it's fascinating because Victor is disciplined enough to do it anyway. For those several years, just playing the long game. Because to Victor, the plan is bigger than the wound. That's a level of discipline that most people will never understand. Hey guys, real quick before we keep going, I just dropped the Doomsday Prep Kit. The free version has your full MCU watch list, key players, the Road to Doomsday timeline, and every RDJ tease since he was cast, all in one place, completely free. Link is in the description. And if you want to go deeper, YouTube memberships are now open, where we have the full Doomsday Prep Kit, which is a living document that I constantly update with tons of new pages that aren't seen in the free version, exclusive Discord access, early access to videos, live streams, behind the scenes updates, and everything in between. So the link for that is also in the description. Anyways, let's get back to it. You guys remember the Fantastic Four post-credit scene, right? Doom is kneeling with his mask in one hand, reaching toward this 5-year-old boy's face with a tenderness that I think we all didn't recognize when we first saw it. Franklin isn't afraid. He reaches back. Now, Franklin Richards in the comics is one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. A child with the ability to create entire pocket universes from nothing, to reshape reality at a fundamental level. The power cosmic running through him in a way that even Reed doesn't fully understand. And in the context of what Doom is building, the bridge, the multiverse, the plan to reshape what comes after the incursions destroy everything, Franklin's power is the engine. Battleworld, the patchwork reality Doom constructs from the fragments of destroyed universes, the mechanism by which all of this gets rebuilt, that requires a specific kind of power that very few beings in the Marvel Universe possess. And Franklin's one of them. So Victor needs this boy the way he needs Reed's mind, as a piece of something larger, as the key to a plan that has been years in the making. The rumors around Doomsday have been pointing for months at an experiment. Victor's lab, something that went catastrophically wrong. The rumors also suggest that Victor had a wife and son, possibly even variants of Sue Storm and Franklin Richards, from his own timeline. A family who didn't survive what happened in that lab. So when Victor kneels in front of Franklin Richards, what is he actually looking at? Is he looking at the power cosmic, at the mechanism his plan requires, at the living key to everything he's been building toward, or is he looking at a ghost? And I think the most honest answer, the one that makes this character so specifically devastating, is that he genuinely cannot separate those two things. The grief and the calculation are the same feeling. They have been for so long that Victor may not even know where one ends and the other begins. Franklin reaches towards his face, and for one moment, the man underneath the suit is just a father who lost his son. And that's the crack in the armor that has nothing to do with the plan, and everything to do with what the plan means to Victor. Now, Sue Storm in this film is going to be watching Victor the entire time. Not suspiciously per se. I mean, she vouches for him, she trusts him. The spell did its job, but there's something underneath that trust that keeps pulling at her. Something she can't quite name. She sees the way he looks at her sometimes, with a weight that feels like it belongs to a different history than the one they share. She notices the way he is around Franklin, that specific unguarded quality that doesn't match everything else about this man. She watches him in moments he doesn't know he's being watched, and something in her keeps registering that something is off. Now, Sue Storm doesn't have Victor's intelligence. She doesn't have the cosmic perspective of the witches Doom is with, or the access to the full weight of what was done to the multiverse, but what she has is simpler than all of that. She has been paying attention to the man underneath all of it. And what she keeps seeing in those unguarded moments, in the way he looks at her face with something that feels like recognition, in the way he reaches toward Franklin like he's seen a ghost, is someone carrying a grief that has no explanation inside the history they supposedly share. Sue can feel that something is wrong, and what makes her so specifically dangerous to something Doom is building is that she's right. Because Victor looks at Sue Storm and sees someone he lost. The spell gave Reed and Sue a manufactured history with Victor, but it couldn't manufacture what Victor feels when he looks at her face. That recognition is real. The grief is real. The specific cost of standing in the same room as a variant of the woman he buried and using her trust anyway is something the plan didn't account for. Based on what we've been talking about in this series so far, Doom essentially built a religion around himself. He assembled ancient cosmic authority. He manufactured a history with the most powerful family in the Marvel Universe. He hid Doctor Strange, Wanda, and other powerful characters behind golden masks, but he did not manufacture what happens when Sue Storm pays attention. And a man that powerful, with a plan that sophisticated, being seen by someone who is genuinely looking, that feeling could be the crack that is eventually going to come through. So behind the mask, what is the real reason Dr. Doom needs the Fantastic Four? Yes, he needs Reed because the problem is bigger than any single mind, even his. He needs years of collaboration and the credibility that builds during it. Yes, he needs Franklin because Franklin's power cosmic is the engine of everything he's building. The way destroyed worlds get rebuilt into something new. Franklin is the living key to reshaping reality itself. And yes, he needs Sue because Sue's trust is the thing that brings everyone else into alignment. If Sue believes Victor, then the rest of the Fantastic Four follows. And if the Fantastic Four follow, Steve Rogers follows. And if he follows, then the Avengers follow. So yes, all of that is true. But Victor also needs them because being around them is the only time the man underneath the suit gets to exist. Reed is the rival who has everything Victor was always supposed to have. Franklin is the son he once had, who reaches toward his face without fear. And Sue is the woman who looks like the person Victor buried, who represents, without knowing it, the only relationship in this story where the mask might actually come off. And that is what makes him so much more complicated than manipulation. Because you can build a spell, you can plan years in advance, but you can't manufacture what Victor feels when Franklin reaches toward his face. That wasn't part of the plan. And the question Avengers Doomsday is going to leave unanswered, the one Secret Wars is going to have to answer, is whether the crack is big enough to change anything. So here's where we are. Doctor Doom walked into the lives of the most powerful family in the Marvel Universe with a history that didn't exist. A spell that rewrote what they remember. A distress signal that brings Ben and Johnny over. A grief that is completely real and completely useful simultaneously. And the man underneath the suit, for the first time in a very long time, is somewhere that feels like home. That's the Fantastic Four's role in this story. Everything we've talked about in this series, the Norns, the spell, the manufactured history, the golden masks, all of it is what Doom is doing inside the film. Now next week is the season 1 finale of the Doomsday Clock series. And I want to be honest with you, I think it's the most important video I've made yet. We find out what happens when Victor Von Doom wins, what Battleworld actually looks like from the inside, and why the most famous line in the MCU's history is about to mean something none of us ever expected. After that, we're taking the Doomsday Clock into the vault for a few weeks because July belongs to Spider-Man. Brand new month starts July 2nd. But first, the finale. I'll see you there.